Hello. Let's do a recording of the trainer. Do some trainer practice. Let's do, we're gonna do the whole game, every position, every spot, no pre-flop, just post-flop, and see what happens. Already did a couple hands. So far, so good. Alright, so we got a hijack 3-bet. Button versus hijack 3-bet. Broadway, high cardboard. Should be able to get away with betting most of the range on this board. Brick turn. Gonna be a lot of checking back, but I think we'll check back mostly ace highs. I think king queen is just gonna wanna continue bluffing a lot, and then probably go all in on a spade river. If we hit a spade river, okay, now having a spade is really bad. We didn't hit a king or a queen. Nothing changed, not much change on the river. I'd be surprised if this is a triple off. I think if we had a hand like king queen of clubs, a triple off would be a lot better on this run out, but not this hand. Okay. I guess we could have tripled off this hand. I was wrong, but giving up is also fine. Betting small would have been the biggest mistake. But yeah. Not bad. So I think on this board, it's a big better check spot. So this wouldn't really make sense to bet whole range, but I'm not sure since we don't have a big bet option besides all in. So I'm just going to check raise probably. Actually, maybe versus under the gun, I don't think tens is probably not good enough to check raise and go for stacks. And if it is, it's probably better in a call, but I'm not sure to be honest. I'm gonna call though. This board can get real bad for the small blind by the time the river runs out. Like, so many cards can really hurt the overpairs. I think we gotta do a lot of defensive play on this run out. So brick turn card, there will be no, doesn't really make sense to have a donking range. We're just going to keep checking. Now this could be a shove spot where you would raise all in for protection and slash value, but I'm not sure. I think having a diamond means a diamond river would be less scary, so it can't be too bad to call, right? I could be wrong. And that's a pretty brick river. It actually might be better for him than it is maybe, since I would have folded ace king on the turn for sure, and he could still have ace king as a bluff from under the gun. So donking here might seem like a thing, but I don't think it is ever. And I don't mean with tens, I mean with other hands in the range that are worse. Queen high flop, obviously good for the cutoff. Cutoff versus hijack, 3-bet pot. So 2 low cards and a Broadway card should be able to get away with betting almost every hand in the range. Single raise pot, big blind versus cutoff. There's no donking in the simplified training sim, although I think it should be, because donking is pretty important now. So there might even be a donking range on this board. We just didn't have the option to use it. Probably is, actually. But yeah, one of the worst hands in the big blinds range here for this board, so never gonna continue that hand. Cutoff versus under the gun, 3-bet. 10 high board, probably can still get away with betting majority of range. But I think in theory we might need some checkbacks on this board. This might even be a mistake, but I know if this was 9-8-5, there's probably a lot more checking. 10 is still a Broadway card, so. And 2 overcards, backdoor nut flush draw, I can't imagine, and backdoor straight draw, I can't imagine this hand is ever folding to a check raise. Terrible turn card for the 3-better. Very good turn card for the 3-bet caller. So, it's an easy fold. Small blind versus button 3-bet pot, so button raise, small blind 3-bet, button call. Ace high, 2 middle cards and a flush draw. I think if there's a hand that needs to check fold this spot, it's king queen. Like, this is king queen no spade is like the worst hand we could flop on this flop, so we're gonna have a high frequency bet there, but not with this hand. If there's any checking at all, it's because of this hand, basically, I think. And it also has no positive bluffing attributes, really. Button's never going to have kings, queens, or ace, king, ace, queen that often. Kind of just got to give this one up. Now it's interesting that this might be a good river bluffing hand. But I'm not sure. 10's just got there. He should 4-bet 10 sometimes pre. We should probably bet. I'm going to try bluffing this. Small mistake. It was just a give up all along. All in would have been really bad. But not a big mistake. Small mistake. We'll take it. Paired board. Under the gun versus button. 3-bet pot. Usually on paired boards we can get away with betting majority of the range in this scenario, in these sims at least. But I can see there being a check back range here as well. Maybe sometimes. And it's a pretty, not really a brick, because now ace king and ace queen and basically any ace high has a gutter and 2 overcards. So I'm just gonna go 3/4, I guess. A lot of hands we can bluff with here. Ace jack being definitely one of them, to try to make him fold ace queen on the river. So this is probably a better card for button. Plus we can have ace jack offsuit here. So this is a better card for us than him. So we could bluff this river pretty aggressively if we had like ace king or ace queen, I think. And he called with 10s. I think a lot of players in real life won't call 10s here on the river. If we had ace jack or ace queen or ace king, we can just probably bet shove on this run out and get a lot of overfolds. It's not an obvious call with 10s here, I don't think, especially on a jack. Well, it is, I guess, considering 10s is really high up in his range, because he's not really going to have ace jack on the turn unless it's ace jack of hearts. So, but yeah. versus cutoff 3-bet. I hate this node, to be honest. That's why I play 4-bet or fold from out of position. But obviously there's no donk bets in this sim, so... which there should be. That's one mistake I think they made with the simplified sims. You kind of need to play them in the training because the complex ones are just impossible to learn anything. Not impossible, but super hard. Like, humans can't really play the complex ones. And with a spade, this is probably a call, but I'm not sure actually. I'm gonna call. Yeah, we could have folded. Maybe we could have actually bluff raised this. I'm not even sure. This hand may have went all 3 ways. But we'll check on the river. And I don't think there's any reason to value bet this hand. There's not very many worse hands in his range with a spade. Worse than the 8 of spades with a spade that he can call with, I don't think. So just gonna check and probably bluff catch if he bets. So let's see if we could have check raised or check called or check fold on the flop. Well, raise would have been a very small 0.06 mistake, so it wouldn't be too bad. And call and fold is worth the same, but fold is preferred. We were close on that. This is a board where queens is an overpair. Queens is like the best hand in hijack's range, so under the gun should be a bit more polar and doing a lot more checking on this board. So should we raise here? I think raise is on the table, but maybe it's not. I'm just gonna call anyway because this is one of the tightest configurations in the game. Like, if this was hijack versus button, I think raising the flop makes more sense because there's more 10s and 9s in the under the guns range, etc. And yeah, we turned the set, so just gonna keep betting, obviously. Never folding this in a 4-bet pot. And he had a bluff. Nice. Cutoff versus button, 4-bet pot. So I think this hand c-bet. I think we can c-bet most of our range on a jack high, but I'm not actually sure. Actually, maybe not. I think we do have a lot of checking on this board. Not with this hand because it has 2 overs, backdoor flush draw. You can pretty much get away with always betting this hand. Yeah, spade turn is just a check fold now for sure. Usually when a spade comes or a flush completes, all of your bluffs are gonna contain at least one spade or a pair, like a bottom pair or something, like a hand that has just over cards or something like that. Like, it's just worth fuck all at this point. Hijack first button, 3-bet. So this is probably a check raise at some frequency, but we get the easy mode. So here I think check raising is fine. Betting small is terrible. Not terrible, but wrong. And overbetting is clearly the best play, I think. Or check raise. Okay, maybe it was check raise. But I like overbet because we're not blocking any of his calls, really. The deuce is like a card that doesn't hit him hardly ever. And just shoving the river after that. Oh, I guess we were wrong. That's why I hate that node. It wasn't a mistake, it was a slight mistake. 0.01. Yeah, wanted to check and hopefully induce a bluff. Not sure why. I guess we don't block any bluffs in his range, like ace king of hearts, or ace queen of hearts, ace king of hearts, king queen of hearts, 9-10 of hearts, or no, that would be a straight, 8-9 hearts. Well, that wouldn't bluff as a pair. Like we still don't really block any of his bluffs, so I'm guessing that's why. But you never know with solvers, man. You never know. Small blind versus big blind, 4-bet pot. We can't bet our whole range on this board, but kings with a spade, I can't imagine cares about, well, we should have checked. Maybe we should just check like our whole range on that flop, that spot. If this hand isn't betting, then geez, what is betting? So here, I think check or bet is probably fine, but it's was a mistake on the flop, so we don't get to see. But let's yeah, so on the flop it was a check. Let's go back and play from that spot. And see how we can do on the turn and river. So would the majority of his ace of spades bet on the flop? I'm not sure. I think it would, considering it's a 7-8-4 flop. It's pretty good for his range. So this hand should be good enough to bet twice and go all in. Because he has a lot of like 6s with a spade, 9s with a spade, 5s with a spade, maybe something like 3s with a spade, I don't know. Or like pocket pairs with a spade, basically. And hands like this, king, queen, queen of spades. But if we assume that even the solver, I think most real players in real life would bet their offsuit ace-x of spades on the flop, just auto, especially on 7-8-4, and hope for a check raise so they can just rip it in, like not really think about it. And yeah, easy way to play rather than check behind and play a complicated note. Oh, a single raise pot, finally. Finally an easy hand, which I'll probably mess up. We'll see. Ace 10-8, I think we can bet most of the range on this board. Pretty good for the cutoff. And we're not folding a gut shot to the nuts this deep on a rainbow flop for a check raise in any situation. I'm curious if that was a fold or was it a fold? Well, now we're folding because a gut shot is just can't continue for pot. But I'm curious, was that a fold on the flop or am I supposed to re-raise? Indifferent. Fold was, all three are worth exactly the same. It says raise is worth 0.01. So it's worth more than folding, yet the solver chooses to fold slightly more. Why is that? I don't know. Your guess is as good as mine. Small blind versus big blind, 3-bet pot, 100 big blinds. It's, I don't know, they should have put donk bets in. But yeah, one of the worst hands we could possibly have here, so easy fold. If something is like super standard, I'm gonna try not to explain it because it's taking too much time. Do we ever check raise? This hand seems actually pretty nice for check raise. But I'm really bad in this node, so I wouldn't expect if I would just butcher this hand. I wouldn't be surprised if I butchered the hand, I mean. And this is a really nice hand to triple off on a non-flush completing river, because we don't block any of the flush draws. So, well, we got the turn wrong. This is why I hate this node. This is like one of the hardest nodes in the game. You can just block it out by playing 4-bet or fold, and you will be way better off playing 4-bet or fold from out of position. But this is an easy fold now, but so on the turn it just check folds, eh? Interesting. I guess it's like the worst open-ender. There's reverse implied odds, which isn't really a thing, but you know what I mean, on the jack river, because the cutoff can just have so much king queen. Like, this hand is actually pretty terrible now when you think about it, because if he has king queen offsuit, like almost pure, like I guess king queen would fold always on the turn. But what, at 2 overcards and maybe a spade and a heart, like that was a king of hearts, queen of spades, would we fold here? Maybe not. Because you can just bluff. Well, you can hit a jack, queen, or king, or you can just bluff. Versus a check on any spade or heart river. I don't know. Spend too much time on that. So small blind called the 4-bet. Called our 4-bet pre-flop. Should be a bit of checking on this board, I think. Ace high usually, I think from the small blind there's a lot of donking on ace high boards, but yeah, but it's never a big mistake to just bet small in the meantime. Makes it easier. And that turn is a complete brick. Probably slightly better for the hijack, since I can have more pocket nines. He would always fold 9s on the turn, but either way, I think I'm just giving this one up. If I wasn't supposed to bet it on the flop, it's a small mistake that I'm probably not supposed to triple it off. Ace 10-6, flush draw, big blind versus small blind, 3-bet. Can we get away with betting majority of our range on this flop? I don't think so. There's a lot of checking on the blind versus blind play, and this hand is perfect check back, so I'm just gonna let it check back. And that's a terrible turn, especially when we don't hold a spade. Betting is just, I think, too risky, because if we get check raised, it's just a disaster. But if we check behind and get a brick river, we can call a bet, and it's a pretty good result. So, like, it makes no... Well, I guess I was wrong, but it's indifferent. It's the same. Is this hand good enough to value bet in a check down line? I think it is, especially blind versus blind. It doesn't really make sense to overbet this hand, because it's not really going to get called by worse. Maybe it will, but it's worth about half pot, I think. So we should be able to be able to get away with betting most of the range on almost every board in this configuration, I think, because the ranges are just so narrow. Like, under the gun's 4-bet range is just so strong that, like, every single flop in the deck, there's just a bunch of overpairs for UTG. And, like, even if there's not an overpair, there's still got 2 overcards and possibly a backdoor flush draw, etc. So you can pretty much, I think, get away with, and small blind's decently capped too as well, I think. And you're supposed to slow play aces in a lot of these configurations, and if you assume your opponent never slow plays aces, it's even more reason to bet every single hand on the flop, especially in every 4-bet pot scenario. If you think your opponent never slow plays aces, you can just blast, and it's going to be really hard for them, in my opinion. Cutoff versus hijack, 4 bets. Obviously, we're not folding 2 overcards and a flush draw on the flop. But does this hand ever raise? I don't think so, because he's using that's a pretty polarized sizing when the SPR is like this. There's probably not much raising going on there at all, to be honest. But I could be wrong. Is this hand good enough to bluff, I wonder? I'm gonna give up, I think. We could have bluffed, but it's not a mistake to check, so I don't think there's a reason to bluff now. We're gonna just lose to ace-king a ton in this line. Or no, it's a double paired board, now we chop with ace-king. But it still wanted to bluff, so that's really surprising, actually. I think the board pairs twice. Now we're chopping with ace-king, which is good. Why risk bluffing? I guess... yeah, I got no idea. But, probably look at this hand later and find out why. I'm not going to waste too much time on it. Small blind versus cutoff, 3 bet. Paired board, pretty good. Paired board is usually good for the 3-better. The paired being 2 aces is even better. 9 is a middling card, probably not really that significant, but we should be able to bet every hand in our range on this flop, pretty much. Now we don't have a spade, so we should be incentivized to get the money in before 4 spades hit the board at all costs, in my opinion. With this combo, I mean, like if we had ace-king with a spade, it wouldn't, maybe slow playing makes more sense, but I'm just going to raise again. So the queen is, well, he's not going to, I don't think he's ever going to raise. If he slow played queens pre, which happens sometimes in this situation, I don't think he's ever going to raise it on the flop. That doesn't make sense. Or the solver, I mean. I don't know why I call him he. So I'm just going to block again. Wasn't the right sizing. Now we have quads. There's pretty brain dead all in on the river. Checking, I think, would be a huge mistake here. Then again, I could be wrong, because he does have like 10 jack of hearts in his range, I think. Maybe that would have folded the flop. But, yeah, I better put it in before the mistake hits. Oh, check wouldn't have even been a big mistake. Would have been fine. Versus a solver. I was just thinking real life. And like I said, yeah, maybe this hand bluffs every time. He has 10 jack of hearts, maybe, and all the flush draws. Maybe they just bluff every single time. Or like a lot. And but he also could have like, yeah, I'm not gonna spend too much time on it. Good, really good flop for the big blind. There's no donking in this simple sim, which means the button should just already be adjusted to check behind a ton on this board. So, just gonna check. Board pairing turn. We do have a heart, the ace of hearts, which is a pretty good card to have. Can we bluff now? I think it's close as fuck. Probably not a big mistake to bluff or check. I'm gonna bluff this time. Small error. I guess check was slightly preferred. And now we have showdown versus queen, jack, 10, jack type of hands. Ace 7 is a chop. Actually, no. Ace 7 is not a chop. Maybe, but yeah, we don't want to have the ace of hearts in our hand, I don't think, because we want him to have that hand when we're bluffing. We want him to have the nut flush draw on the river when we're bluffing. So, bluffing with this card is not a good idea. 10 jack, on the other hand, if we played 10 jack this way, which we would since we're checking back most of our range on the flop, that would make way more sense to bluff on the river than this hand. Because you can make him fold when you have no showdown value and make him fold better misdraws, just snap fold, and like nut flush draw, etc. I guess I was wrong. There is donking in the sim. Okay, so it's only simplified for us, and the GTO opponent has multiple sizings. I forgot that. So there is donk bets. But yeah, it doesn't really change anything what I said. But we need at least 2 overcards to call this. We don't even have a backdoor flush draw, so pretty easy fold. So small blind versus button 3-bet, queen, 10-4, super good flop. When there's 2 Broadway cards and a low card, like there's no straight, especially. Like if that was a 9 or an 8, it might be a bit different, but super good for the 3-better. And clubs is just an extremely good triple barrel. Like king jack of clubs is probably the best bluffing hand on this board to like triple barrel. I guess I'm wrong about that. But assuming we take that line, I'm gonna bluff this hand always. I know it's probably gonna be a mistake, or it's just not a thing since we made a mistake on the previous street. So it wants to just give up on this hand. I wonder why. Like in game, I would always bluff this hand. Like I'd probably check the turn with a ton of flush draws, and my triple barrel bluffs would be like this. Maybe this hand is too good, because if I bet the turn and he just rips it all in with like this hand, that's a disaster, because we're already beating this hand. So yeah, there are some bad things about betting the turn with this hand. Either way, pretty small mistake. I mean, it prefers block betting, I guess, because if we block bet, he doesn't have as good of a price on a shove as a bluff. So, and if he does just do a small raise, we could always call that, I guess. I don't know. On to the next. Do a couple more and then I'm done. Actually, we'll go to 30. I don't think there's donk betting on this board anyway, in theory. Big blind versus cutoff, 3 bets. King high board, everyone knows, extremely good board for the pre-flop aggressor in pretty much every case. Single raise, 3 bet and 4 bet pots. So we're just going to be betting pretty much every hand in our range in this spot. And there's no reason, and even on the brick turn, I think there's still a ton of betting. Which sizing, though, do we want to use with aces? I think it would be cooler if the sim didn't have 2 sizings here, because that's a bit hard. Pretty hard, I think. We got it right, though. Alright, a gutter, an overcard, and a backdoor flush draw. Now he just bet pass. 3 bet pass, by the way. Jeez, I can't see us folding this hand. I think we gotta call. Even though it's probably a bit close. And an extremely good turn card for him. We're almost never hitting this card unless we have ace king and a backdoor flush draw, like ace king suited, which I think is a 4 bet pure pre-flop. So life's pretty easy when you hit the nuts. So the 3 deuce is good for the big blind, but the queen I think is what's important. So we can just get away with super high betting frequency, especially when the ranges are really wide like this. A lot of hands in his range that just have to fold on these type of boards. I think most of our two barrels are just gonna come from like jack 9, king jack, maybe ace jack, and ace king, and ace queen. Not this hand. This is just giving up now for sure. Do we bluff the river? I'd say no, because if he had like ace 7 of hearts, we don't really want to block that hand, because this hand would be in this node. And we might have a very small amount of showdown value against some of his weak flush draws that missed. I know there's a lot of checking in blind versus blind 4-bet pot. This is like the hardest node in the game, I think. One of the top 3 hardest nodes in the game. I'm gonna check this back. But life is easy when you hit the nuts. This might be an all-in spot, double flush draw. But there was a passive action on the flop for both players, so maybe not. Let's see if all-in. Yeah, all-in would have been bad. I'm glad I didn't choose it. But double flush draw spots are oftentimes used with super large bets, but not in every case, clearly. So undergun versus hijack 4-bet pot. 2 kings, extremely good for the 4-better. Easy range bet. I'm going to 2-barrel this hand always, I think, because having the ace of hearts, we can just hit an ace and win on the river. A queen or a heart would be super good for a bluff. And boards with kings on them, like, there's just going to be way more aggression on turns and rivers in general, I think. So this hand is a pretty easy bluff off. Hijack first button, 3-bet spot. Super good board for the 3-better. Not a very good board for deuces. Probably the worst hand we could have here. I don't know I don't even know why I'm not skipping. Why I have to explain. Easy spot. So decent flop for the 3-bet caller. And assuming he's playing big bet or check, when he does check, a small range bet with majority of range works really well on these lower boards, like 9 high and lower. But if we somehow knew if this was a real player, and because a lot of people like to check their whole range on this board, and there's no reason to fast play this on the flop, by the way. You have the invincible nuts, pretty much. Let him bluff if he's going to bluff. But if we knew he was checking his whole range on the flop, we would probably have a lot of checkbacks on the flop. But we know the solver is playing big bet or check when he does bet, or when he does check. Now we can all of a sudden bet most of our range, because his checking range is just, I don't know, it's not that good. Like, it's because all the hands that want to bet mostly bet, and there's just enough traps in there to make it so I can bet most of the range, but probably not all of it. Button versus cutoff, 4-bet pot. Do we ever raise ace queen here? I'm gonna say no, since it's a paired board and ace high. And this is never a fold. I'll quickly mention that in 4-bet pots, the required hand strength to get all the money in at any given moment is much weaker than a 3-bet pot or a single raise pot, because of the SPR on the flop is just so low already. King high flop, super good for the 4-better. Easy range bet. Believe it or not, a 10 doesn't have that much showdown, I don't think. Like, even though we hit a 10, you might think, oh, now it's time to start checking and getting this hand to showdown. No, this board is really good for our range, I think. I could be wrong, but I'm gonna blast it. 8-9 gets there. I don't think that's too important. What is important, though, is that we block ace queen and pocket tens, which is in his range always, so bluffing can't be too bad. It might be a green check mark or a double, but I don't think it's a mistake. One of the best bluffing hands we could have had there. So I know ace queen with a backdoor flush draw would always call here, but do we call here with ace queen of clubs? I think if we do continue here, raising is probably better. But it's probably just a fold. Oh, we could have fold, call, or raise, apparently. In game, I would like to fold. If a spot is this close, and I assume it's this close. Like a lot of times you can be in spots where it's like it makes sense to fold, call, or raise, because it's just like that hand that's in that category, where it's like good enough to do all three, but not in a way where like one option is way better than the other. And this is one of those hands, I guess. I was thinking raise might be an option on the flop. It's definitely not horrible. Ace queen. Ace 10 will do. Paired board, super good for the 3-better. The paired card is an ace, even better. We have the top of the range. Just an easy hand. Life is easy when you run this good. Is ace king still good enough to go all in even though there's one card straight, and he probably has like deuces? He could have made. Does he have deuces in this run out? Yeah, it has to be still good enough. We can get called by ace jack, ace queen, especially button versus cutoff. He probably has like ace 5 and shit. If he has ace 4, he obviously has ace 5 and like a bunch of other suited aces. Well, ace 5 would be a straight, but ace 6, ace 7, ace 8. Alright, last hand. Finally, I think we need more single raise pots. Too many 3-bet and 4-bet pots in this video. That's just how we ran. But yeah, we're gonna check raise this always, I think. Bottom set is pretty much always check raised. They're always fast played to the max because we don't block top pair or any of the draws. So, easy hand to play unless the board runs out like this. So, I think the queen is a pretty good card for the hijack. But then again, we have more 10-jack offsuit, I guess, because he wouldn't raise that hand pre. So yeah, this hand, well, I guess I was wrong. But we river the boat, and we don't block any flushes, or any pocket aces, or any 10-jack, so easy all in. I guess not. Could have slow played. Interesting. Checking slow playing would have been a mistake. It would prefer to block bet the river. I guess because we can get value from like queen, jack, and king X, and induce some bluffs, of course. And if he has a flush, he's gonna shove anyway. And so we're not going to lose out with pocket fives. Any flush is pretty much good enough for him to shove with. And he's basically never going to have 10-jack unless it's like... Because like 10-jack would be a hand that you would want to go all in against because it would probably just call if you just block bet the river. But he only has 3 combos of 10-jack that isn't a flush because the offsuit is just fold pre. So that's really an insignificant point. I think. Yeah, that's it for this one. Stay tuned. First ever recording.